I get that. People can turn around and say you're running away from your problems. But if you eradicate the problems, you're not running away from anything. You're actually running towards something, which is discovering who I was.
Have you ever reached a point in your life when it all just got too much? My guest today experienced exactly that when she found herself in a toxic relationship, a soul-sucking job, and a destructive home life. So what did she do? Bought herself a one-way ticket to the other side of the world and set off to discover who she was really, away from the people and places she felt had been pulling her down. In giving herself time and distance, AJ, also known as the honest biker, built herself back up, found a resilience she didn't know she had, and learned to lean into the things she loved the most: travel, motorcycling, and helping others. It's a story of self-love and a lesson in designing a life on your terms. Oh, and one other thing, there are a few sneaky F-bombs and swear words in this one, so you might want to put your headphones on around the kids. Okay, let's go.
Hello, it's Zoe, and welcome back to the Mischief Movement podcast, your weekly inspo for people looking for more hell yeah in their life. Consider this your one-way ticket out of midlife mediocrity towards fun and positive impact via playful disruption. Wouldn't you love to wake up and feel like a total badass? How about breaking some rules, throwing two fingers up to society and doing more of the things you love? I'm talking full-on freedom, adventure, and those meaningful connections I know you've been craving. Stop waiting for your amazing life to happen and go get it! I'll be picking the brains of some true game changers and mischief makers so I can share what I find and hopefully inspire you to shake things up, do more of what makes you feel alive, and boldly rebel against the ordinary. I've no idea what I'm doing, to be honest, but I've got a mission and I'm here to start a movement. It's going to be quite the adventure. Care to join me? Okay, here goes.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that we were able to do this and actually jump on a call again.
Me too.
I'm really, really happy to welcome AJ, aka the Honest Biker, back to the podcast.
Hey guys. I have to remember I'm being recorded, and it's like, I can't just wave. I have to manually say hello.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. Literally just before we came on, I was explaining that I've just been non-stop. As a few people would know me, I'm quite into biking, so I've been heavily involved with that the past few weeks, with a few more bits coming up. So it's all go, go, go. As soon as the sun comes out, everyone packs up and they're off on their two wheels. But yeah, it's been really good, thanks.
So I always start by asking people what their mischief is. I mean, you go by the name of the Honest Biker. Yeah. So I'm guessing most of your mischief is on two wheels.
It is. It's kind of funny, really, when people turn around and they ask me about my username. I say, well, to be fair, the username is kind of like a self-disclaimer, or it's like a waiver, because I'm one of those people now. I never was, believe it or not. If you'd seen me about 8 years ago, there's no way. I would believe I'd be in this position that I'm in right now. I'm just a completely different person. So the Honest Bike just came about after a lot of, I can't swear on this, can I?
You absolutely can.
Oh, thank God for that. Good, because we're going to get a lot of that, right? So yeah, it was literally after a lot of shit in my life, So I just kind of had my fuck it moment, and I was like, no, that's it. I'm putting me first. I'm going on a me spree, and I'm going to be selfish for once. So yeah, that's kind of where it came about, and it really came into play the past 2 years. So yeah, it's a username and a waiver, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay. So what happened then in your life, and what is this fuck it moment? When did it happen, and what came out of it?
So my entire life I had been in just absolute bullshit relationships, family, friends, work. It was horrible, and I just remember I was at work, and I remember it so vividly. I've got a photographic memory, so if I close my eyes I can see the exact position that I was in. I was at my desk, and I just had a bit of a disagreement with management over something, and I was just being scapegoated for so much shit, and I thought, got to be more to life than this. This is not right, And, you know, I was already gone through like a kind of stage of depression as well, undiagnosed, but it's kind of clear that's where I was at, having, you know, a little bit more experience now as I've gotten older. I can recognize that I was in a very bad place. And I just, you know, I didn't want to be around anymore. About 5 years prior to this, you know, I'd managed to get through that. And then I kind of just skipped forward to this little position here. And it was happening again. It was a cycle. And I think a lot of people can kind of recognize that and realize that, yeah, you know, you have those cycles where everything's good and then things get a little bit shit and then things get really shit. And you're like, no, you kind of convince yourself, oh, it's okay if I just stick it out for an extra XYZ amount of time, it'll be fine. But it never is. It always goes back round in circles. So anyway, this was another circle, and I was sat there and I thought to myself, do you know what? There is a whole world out there, and I have got no ties at this point in my life. So it's either now or it's never. So I thought to myself, where is the furthest place on this planet that I can go away from everyone, that I can just be like, set up a base and make a decision as to where I'm going to go when I get there? And I looked up and it was like, oh, Australia, I'm going to go there. And I was looking online, I thought, well, how can I do this? I'm Googling away, and I thought to myself, there must be a visa or something I can get, you know. Looked online. And at the point in time, doesn't exist now, I don't think. It's called a 457 workers visa. It allows you to live in the country for a year, and then you do another 3 months like agricultural work, and you can live there for another year if you plan, if that's what you want to do. So brilliant, that's it, I'm going to do that. And I remember putting it out to the universe, and I turned around and I said, right, universe, if this is meant to happen, please, for the love of God, send me a sign, because I'm going to go for it. And I thought to myself, that's brilliant. If this gets approved, absolutely fine. And I made a promise, and I said, if you approve this, I will quit my job. I will hand in my notice today, walk out, not go back, because I've had enough. And I'll just, you know, I'll do everything else that follows.
What was the catalyst? Was it the job? Was it a particularly bad day?
It was just everything. It was everything. It was like, I was, you know, when I was at home, I was being told that I was on a downward spiral. I was being told I'd never amount to anything. I had a partner that didn't, like, you know, weren't supportive. Yeah, it was just that final point at work. I was brought up to believe that you need to go to work, get a job for life, settle down, have kids, you know, 2.4 kids, golden retriever, white picket fence, all of this, you know, that society tells you is the norm. And I thought to myself, I don't want to live someone else's normal. I want to live my normal, you know? I don't want to live.
Did you know what that was then? Did you have any idea what your normal looked like?
No, I didn't know who I was. That's the thing. I had no idea who I was. I had no sense of identity. I had a rough idea, you know, I kind of found myself a little bit whilst I was at college. What I was into, things that made me tick, and that kind of set that little spark inside of me, you know.
What kind of things were they?
So it was like things that were just totally different. You know how people always turn around and say that they're different, they're the black sheep of the family? That's me. I'm definitely the black sheep of the family in a good way. So I love like all my alternative music. I love culture. I love exploring. I'm not a homeboard. I cannot live and die in the same town. Some people can, that's fine. That's not a problem. If that's your norm, that is not a problem. But for me, that wasn't my norm, and it was being pushed. It was just being forced upon me that I wasn't normal. People are never going to like me. This was another thing, because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left college. I did a lot of contracting work, and I first went into TV, which is all contract work. So anyway, my parent at the time were like, you're never going to get another job. Nobody's going to want a contract. No one's going to want to hire you because you've had so many jobs. And no matter how I tried to explain it to them, they were very set in the mindset of that 2.4 children, white picket fence, get a job at a bank, that's it for life, you're set, that's it, done, have no aspirations, whatever. So yeah, it was like, I'm not that person. I don't want to say can't conform, because I can when I need to, but there's more to life than this. You cannot tell me that there is a whole world out there and that we are meant to live and die in a 9 to 5.
So you said that you asked the universe for a sign. Did you get one?
Yeah, they instantly approved my visa in 10 minutes. And that visa takes about 2 to 3 weeks to be approved normally, right? And I looked, and I remember hearing the little bidding, and I thought, no way, that's got to be spam or something like that. And I looked in my inbox, and I swear to God, you know when you get that hot, cold flush, I thought, oh my God, it's really happening. And my little bottom lip was like, because I was just ready to go, you know. I was like, right, that's it. And I I grabbed my laptop. I remember I was shaking, physically shaking. I'm trying to hide my excitement from, at the time, my manager, who was like sitting across the desk from me. My manager turned around and said, "Oh, don't be too rash, blah, blah, blah." And I thought, I was already zoning out. There was like, I'm thinking, right, beaches, where can I go? What can I do? How can I, I'm off. I'm already there. I'm on the plane. See you later, mate.
So what happened next?
I went home and I was, full of beans. I was like, fuck, this is it. It's so exciting. Like, how long have I got? So I made sure that I looked as soon as I had my visa, and I thought to myself, right, I need a game plan. And within about an hour, I'd planned out as much as I could do for like the next 10 months. So I thought to myself, right, I've just quit my job. I need to get money. So how can I do that? Went online and I was like, right, let's see if I can get a flight that's in, say, 6 to 8 months' time. That gives me time to sell everything I own, to get all of my inoculations, because you have to have inoculations before you go away, Australia, and traveling. I was
okay. So at the beginning, it sounds like you literally just chucked in your job and went, but you actually did make a plan, and it was all kind of well thought out. You got the visa really quickly, but the rest of it was like, no, now I've got to sell my stuff.
Yeah.
Then what were you going to do?
Yeah. So that was it. I went home and I literally thought, what do I need? And I just thought to myself, I need money. I need inoculations. I looked into it properly, insurance. Oh my God, please. If you can't afford insurance, you cannot afford to travel. I always tell everyone that. So I decided to sell everything. So I sold my car. I sold all of the clothes I didn't need, anything else that I really wanted that I couldn't take with me. I left at my parents' place, but everything else that I realized that I actually didn't need. You don't realize like how much stuff you don't need, until you have to get rid of it.
Did it actually feel quite cathartic to sell that stuff and be like,
Absolutely. Because even now, obviously I'm back now and I'm settled and whatnot, but even now the thought of moving house just strikes the fear of God into me, because I've got so much shit. It's just like,
we do though. We just accumulate stuff, don't we?
Yeah, but it is, as you say, it's so cathartic to be able to just get rid of everything and live quite a simplistic lifestyle, and also one that doesn't have a lot of ties. But I know as I'm saying this, everyone can kind of be listening and go, oh yeah, it's easy for you. You've got no kids, you're not married, you're not this, you're not that. And I was like, yeah, I get that. But the thing is, this was my plan and what worked for me. So it is possible, but you have to do things that work for you. Don't take this as I'm going to say like set in stone rule of how to do this. This is what worked for me at the time. So
that's okay. We don't do rules on this show.
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to be like, oh, it was easy for her. She didn't have this. Mate, I had so much baggage that I had to get rid of before I left. It was ridiculous. Yeah, you can do it, even if it's for a little bit of time. Everyone deserves to go and have that me spree moment. And I think if you don't truly find out about yourself and what makes your brain tick. Do you know what I mean? If you never have that opportunity to just be away, even if it's for a weekend, like go somewhere that no one speaks English and you're on your own, you've got a backpack and a map and your phone, because don't be stupid. Everyone needs to get in contact.
That's going to be really scary to some people, though.
I was terrified. Yeah, of course I was. I was going to a country where the only reason I went to Australia is because they speak English. So I knew that at least if I was a million miles away from home, or what I class as home, my home country or whatever, I knew that I would be all right because I could ask for help because there were native English speakers that lived there.
Well, what about the people who listen to you talk and say, yeah, but you're just running away from your problems?
Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. That's exactly kind of what I was doing, if I'm honest. But at the same time, it was something that I'd always wanted to do. So it was kind of killing two birds with one stone. It's like everyone says that I was, I get that. People can turn around and say you're running away from your problems. But if you eradicate the problems, you're not running away from anything. You're actually running towards something, which is discovering who I was, and that I'm so happy that I did it, because I am such a different person. Before I went away, I was very kind of, yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir, yes. But that's because of how I was brought up. And by doing what I did, by going away, I was alone. I had my own rules, as in I had to not defend for myself, but I had to learn how to... how am I trying to say this? I had to learn how to manage myself.
You've got to stick up for yourself, haven't you? You've got to back yourself and trust yourself.
Oh, God, absolutely. And that's it as well. you have to trust yourself. And there was this whole kind of self-love thing that came about because if I'm honest, I wasn't really too happy with the person that I was, but that was because I wasn't being true to myself. And by doing what I did, I eradicated those problems. And it just put everything into perspective.
So what happened when you got there? What happened when you got to Australia?
I got to Australia and I booked a little hostel for about a week in a place called Woollamaloo, which is a real place. It's just by King's Cross in Sydney. And it was called, I think it's called like the Star Hostel or the Red Star, Lucky Star Hostel or something like that. Anyway, it was a workers' hostel. And when I got there, it was for people that were working and living in Australia but couldn't afford to rent. So they stayed in the hostel for like, I think it was like a maximum of a month. And then you had to kind of move out and go somewhere else and, you know, rotate round or whatever. But when I got there, I remember I just had this big ass smile on my face. I was like, you know, kind of like the in-betweeners when they step off the plane with their little backpack. I was like, oh, look, I'm going exploring. You know, I had no idea what I was doing. And when I got there, I just remember I met loads of people in the hostel, and they were all just, everyone was in the same boat. Everyone was so friendly. Everyone was like, hey, hi.
It's really interesting. But like in the same boat as in they're all out for an adventure, or in the same boat as in there were a lot of people maybe from the UK or the States or other places in the world that were like, I need to take this moment to find myself. Were there a lot of people there doing the same thing?
Yeah, there were people out there that just wanted to go out traveling, as you do. There were people out there that were kind of like in the same boat as me, but we were in the minority. It was very much more so people that were on gap years.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
It's a coming of age thing. So it's kind of like a thing where they say that they're now classed as adults, so they have to go out into the real world and fend for themselves, and they learn about themselves. I think that's so important.
God, stuff like this should be compulsory. Yeah.
And it's so important because I actually think that as a country, like I know we're quite sheltered before we go into the adult world. We don't get that opportunity to take time out and come to terms with everything that we've gone through. Think of it, you've gone through puberty, you're going through adolescence, you're going through being out of school, like a school environment where you can kind of get away with a lot of stuff, right? And then you're being thrown into the adult world where you actually have to make a decision. Do you want to go out and do you want to get an education and go into a certain line of work, or do you want to go straight into a job? You don't get time to think. It's literally, you get 4 or 5 months, and then that's it. That's the rest of your life. So that's why they kind of push for their kids to go and learn about themselves, go out into the world, anywhere in the world for a year, and then come back. And then you can make a decision and you have that experience and that flavour of what it's like to live outside of your bubble, you know? So yeah, I you know, it was that kind of thing. And I learned that from going there and talking to people, and it really opened up my eyes, like how we as a culture don't embrace things like that as much. And it's a shame because we should. I know so many people that have never really been out of their own country. It's just that I feel that people need to experience something different that really pushes them out of their comfort zone, because you learn about yourself by doing that. It's a bit uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie, it's uncomfortable for some people, that you're either going to relish it or embrace it, or you're going to kind of cry all the way through it. But at the end, you'll think, God, I'm so glad I did that, you know? And it's just, it was just one of those. And so, anyway, when I got to Australia, that was it. That was the situation I was in. I was thrown into this whole conversational mix with people from all over the world, all different ages. There was one woman there who was amazing. She was 76 years old, and she was just fully embraced in with the whole crowd that was in this hostel. And I remember everyone I think her name was Mama Meg. They nicknamed her Mama Meg because she was like the mum of the group, obviously, you know, as you do. And she was just there for a good time. I think she just recently lost her husband, and it was her fuck it moment. She was like, I've put everyone first. I've lost my partner. I always put my family first, my grandchildren, my children, etc., etc. This is my time. She went, and I want to do it before I kick the bucket. I remember her telling me that. She's like, I want to do it before I kick the bucket. This is it. This is my opportunity. I've never done anything like this before, and this is it.
This story's giving me goosebumps. I love it.
But yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was finally there, and I was like, I was living my dream, you know. It was something I'd always had a wanderlust for. I'd always have had a wanderlust for that side of the world. And I was there and I was doing it, and I couldn't believe it. And I was so proud of myself, you know, after being told, like, it's kind of like that thing about Chinese water torture. It's like, if you keep telling someone something, eventually they're going to think it's true. So if someone keeps telling you your shit, if someone keeps telling you you're not going to amount to anything, if someone keeps telling you you're a disappointment, you're a this, you're a that, you start believing it. And that's kind of the reason why I had to go, because I needed to break out of that bubble, because unfortunately for me, all of that was coming from home.
I think that can also come from yourself as well, from when you've got that negative inner critic. It's the same kind of it's the same kind of thing when you're constantly listening to your own inner critic going, you can't do this, you're not good enough, who do you think you are?
Exactly, absolutely. And you need to tell yourself to shut up sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, so I was out in Australia for like a year and a half, and then I went around Australasia, like all of the islands and everything, like on my own. Like I didn't plan any of it. The thing is as well, when you travel, and this is a lot of things that people might not like, is that you don't necessarily have a plan. You just have to go with the flow, and you have to trust in yourself that you're doing the right thing, you know? And
how did you find that?
Oh, it was just, you just can't. If I could bottle up that essence of doing and sell it, I would be a billionaire, because it was just that essence of, wow, I can do this. I'm so proud of myself. This is amazing. And it was that gut feeling and listening to that little inner voice that's like, you can do this. It's all right. It's going to be all right. Just go with it. You're going to be fine. And if it's not, we can cross that bridge when we get there. And that's what I did. Instead of that little voice of doubt saying, oh, you know, like you just said, it gets quieter the more you do things out of your comfort zone, because that voice outside the comfort zone gets louder.
Yeah.
How can I describe it? It was just making me smile from the inside out, instead of it being like this facade where you pretend that everything's all right, as I'm sure we all do it at some point.
Had you been doing that before you left, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was really not in a good place at all, mentally, emotionally, because like I said, I put everyone else first. I'd always taken the flack for everything, just be like, oh yeah, maybe I am stupid, maybe I don't really deserve that, or whatever, you know, maybe I did deserve whatever else came to me. And I was like, no, my life cannot revolve around a certain amount of people's opinions on me.
There's so much to be said about the people that you surround yourself with. I mean, it just makes such a difference, doesn't it?
You are the company you keep. And I mean, it took me a while.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have now found my people, if that makes sense.
Good.
It's series 2, and I'm excited to be back partnering with Polite Club again, a brand whose mission is to change the attitude towards vulnerability and to encourage more conversation around it in order to increase real human connection. The vehicle for these conversations is clothing, or connection clothing as it's become known. And connection is one of our core values. So to bring more people together and help you rebel against staying the same, Polite Club are offering a cheeky 10% discount when you use the code MISCHIEF at the checkout. Sustainable, organic and rebellious, of course, Polite Club also uses 50% of their profits to fund proactive suicide prevention in the form of coaching, support and awareness raising, which enables people to understand their emotions and express how they feel constructively. Become a vulnerable with us. For more info on the brand or to buy online, go to politeclub.co.uk or follow on Instagram at politeclubhq. Now, on with the show.
And when you got back, what had changed for you?
I got back and I met with, at the time, one of my really good friends, and they picked me up from the airport and I went back home. And I kind of had a game plan, which was, this is only temporary. This is fine. This will pass. It's not what I want. It's not where I want to be. And I just got a game plan together of what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go and where I wanted to be. Kind of like maybe say like 2 to 3 month plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think within the month I'd moved out, and that was it. From there, I just kind of rented a few places, and just made sure that I kept my distance, self-preservation kind of thing, I suppose we could say. Just making sure that I looked after me and I put myself forward. So from traveling and going and doing that in Australia and Australasia and all of that, it really made me realize it was like a switch. And I remember, I think I said this a while back when we first spoke before we did this podcast, that I was on a beach in Gili Air in the Indonesian Isles. And I just remember being on this beach. I had no ties. I had no responsibilities. I didn't even think I had that much money in my back pocket, but it didn't matter because I just had this epiphany moment of, this is true happiness. This is happiness. I just had this wave of almost like, it must have been like endorphins or dopamine or something. And I just remember sitting there thinking, this is true happiness. Putting myself first, being a little bit selfish, which is fine. We need to be every now and then. Just because you put yourself first sometimes doesn't mean you're a complete see you next Tuesday. It means you're looking after yourself, because you need to do that. You know that whole saying when people turn around and say about how money can't buy you happiness? I don't think that that's true. I think money can buy you happiness, but it's temporary. It's not true happiness. True happiness lasts with or without money, and that's what I learned whilst I was out there. And also I learned that it was okay to say no. It's okay to outgrow people. That's fine. It's part of being a human, people will come in and out of your life as and when certain situations call for it. And if they don't necessarily continue on with you through your journey, that's fine. So, yeah, I just learned a lot. Just don't be a scapegoat. Don't be a dog's body. Don't be a walkover. It's okay to say no. And it's okay to have difference in opinion. So, there was a lot of things that I learned about myself, and just that, yeah, it just put everything into perspective. And I just realized that it was okay to do things that I wanted to do and not necessarily what everyone else wanted to do.
It does take courage, though, because especially when you're surrounded by people telling you one thing and you're there going, I'm not down with that. Definitely takes courage. But what interests me is the fact that, it actually turned into a very healthy kind of journey into loving yourself at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
What else did you learn while you were there? Or what else did you discover that you really enjoy or that you were good at and that you kind of then brought back with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it was definitely a catalyst of learning to put myself first and look after myself first. It's that whole kind of cliche thing of, if you can't love yourself, who's going to love you kind of thing, And it's so true. It's so true. If you don't love yourself, you're just going to attract, you're going to try and fill a void. And this is what I keep telling people, is that people that get into relationships to fill a void, to stop feeling lonely, haven't gone out and discovered what makes them tick, which is why they can't, when they're on their own, fill that void and comfort themselves. So for me, my comfort is maybe looking, it just sounds like everyday. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It can be like very mundane everyday things. So mine is like listening to certain types of music that I've discovered whilst I was traveling, or certain types of films that I'll sit down and I'll just completely veg out. And that's like my little comfort. For me, I absolutely adore foreign film. So, and especially animated films. So Hayao Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli stuff, all of the, the animated stuff. It's just, I just have such an appreciation for the artwork that's in that film. So that's my little comfort. I've learned that even now recently, with everything that's been gearing up with all of my biking things, it's exploded. And I don't know how. I'm very grateful for it, but I just don't know how it's happened. And I do have a little bit of imposter syndrome. So I do have to every now and then turn around to people, like I've done it today actually, just say, look guys, I really appreciate us getting a lot of things in the calendar, but I do have to push back and just have my R&R. I just like having a weekend of doing those little comfort things. And I love my own company. Like I absolutely love my own company. I get annoyed when I'm around people too much. I have to have my shut out, and I'm like, that's fine now. I don't have to fill those voids anymore because I don't feel, quote, lonely, unquote, And I think until you get to that point, you're always going to be filling that void, and you're never going to have that happiness of being alone and being happy with yourself as a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But I was just thinking actually that we haven't even really touched on the biking stuff. Did you get into biking while you were in Australia?
No, I got into biking when just before I went away.
Okay.
And then when I was out there, I got into biking when I was actually traveling around Vietnam, which is my heart country, Vietnam. If you haven't been, please go. But honestly, it was we rented a cheap little ped, like, you know, a little scooter or whatever, and we literally rode from the bottom to the top, like right up to the North Vietnam, and just, oh man, the people, the further out you went, the friendlier they were. And these people had nothing, you know, and they would give you the shirt off their back to a stranger if it meant helping, you know. And yeah, I just fell in love with biking, just having that freedom, like being on the road, not having a kind of an idea of where I was going to go. It was literally wake up and go talk to a few people in the hostel. Maybe they were going off and going to, I don't know, the monkey forest or something like that, or they were going to some random beach 25 kilometers away, and they're like, oh, do you want to come? It's like, yeah, sure, awesome. And just pack your backpack up and off you went. I thought, do you know what? I really want to bring this home. I want this to be a skill that I can do when I'm at home. So as soon as I went home, that was it. I literally booked my CBT and I went out and I tried to get all of my lessons. I went on to do my DAS. And so DAS is direct access, which is like a quick way of getting your full license. Went and did that. And I just absolutely fell in love with the whole scene, just the camaraderie, the people, and just the history behind it. And it kind of, again, proved to me that I can do it and be maybe like, not necessarily be a little bit different, but, you know, just be more independent. So I can go and do whatever. And people go, oh, but you can do that in a car. I'm like, it's not the same. It's really not. When you're on that bike and you can just weave between the traffic, you know, oh, mate, there's no better feeling than just weaving through a 25-mile traffic jam. It's the best. I can't say it's not.
Well, I asked Jenny from Ride Like a Girl when I had her one whether she was scared when she was learning, because we both had experiences where we were really nervous learning. Was it the same for you?
I swear to God, if my bike school are listening to this podcast, they can probably still see the dents in the tank from where I was gripping so hard, because I was absolutely terrified. I was so shit. I can't even explain to you how bad I was when I first started, honestly. But
that's really going to help someone, you know, because even off the back of the episode with Jenny, I know at least one person who felt inspired to go and book a session with VC London. And then she went on to book her CBT just off the back of that conversation. So I know there'll be people listening today going, actually, if she was terrified and they were both terrified and they still did it, so can I.
Mate, I crashed my instructor's bike. So don't worry, if I've gone from that to doing, I'm actually going to be talking on the Women in Motorbike panel coming up this month or the end of August. Yeah, so I've gone from crashing my bike into my instructor's car to talking on the panel at the Women in Motorbiking exhibition this year. If I can do it, you can do it. Believe me. Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, it is all it takes as well sometimes is just to hear someone else's story and be like, yeah, but I bet they're just saying that to make people, I'm not. I promise you I'm not. Go and have a look on my Instagram, because I tell you what, my journey, when people ask me how long have I been riding, I've been riding now 2.5, 3 years, like not long at all. And people are like, no way, I can't believe it. Like, I really thought you'd been riding for like years. You're so confident. I was like, well, it just all comes about because I decided to do it, basically. And it's the people as well. Like we said, we go back to surrounding yourself with the right people, and they boost your morale, and they'll cheer you on, and they'll be your cheerleaders. You know, you just got to go out and find the people, and they'll be there for you, you know? Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the fact that you then went on to do the mental health first aider course.
So I'd already done it from a work perspective. Sorry, I'm just putting my elbow back in my socket. We'll get onto that in a minute. So I had decided that I wanted to do it from a motorbiking perspective, because it's really important that we talk about mental health, especially with men, because in the biking industry, it's kind of like that bravado that still exists, that men shouldn't be able to talk about their emotions. And it's a stigma that we need to really, really try and break down. I know a few people, unfortunately, who are no longer here, who, as a result of not being able to talk, you know, so it's something that we need to break down the stereotypes with. So for me, I discovered the mental health motorbike guys and Paul Oxborough, who's the founder of the company now. It's a charity. They're now fully registered and fully charity registered and everything, which is great. And it was within their first lot of enrollment, they turned around and said, we're looking for people to be points of contact for mental health first aid, kind of like a crisis worker, if that makes sense. But focusing heavily around motorbiking and how we can break down those stereotypes. So I did the course, and I did it with, I think, about 30 others, maybe, or 15, I can't remember exactly, but the numbers have grown considerably, and it's something that I was really passionate about, and especially combining the two, the mental health, the helping, and the motorbikes. And it just, for me, it was just something that made sense, you know. So I got into that, and now I am a qualified first aider, point of contact, reference person in the motorbiking world. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing, and I do that as and when. I've got a little sticker. It's on my windshield on the front. It's a little green shield, it looks like, and it just says first aider, mental health motorbike. So if anyone sees any of those, it means that that person on that bike, we're here to help, we're here to listen without judgment. It's almost like talking to a wall that will listen and talk back if you want them to, and whatever you say stays in those, you know, with that person. It won't get shared or anything like that. So yeah, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about that, because it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose the last thing I really want to ask you is, do you think a lot of the decisions that you've made, like over the last few years, have resulted from that moment of just saying, fuck it, I'm going?
Yeah, if no one can see me, I'm nodding my head until it's going to fall off the top of my spine, honestly. Absolutely. It taught me so much about myself and what I could do and what I was capable of, you know. And I get it, because everyone's going to turn around and go, oh, as I said earlier, oh, it's easy for her, she can just go off and do it. Do something that works for you, that pushes you out of your comfort zone, to learn about yourself. That's it. Doesn't matter what.
I think that's a really good point, actually. We're not sat here saying everybody should book a one-way ticket to Australia, because people do have families and responsibilities and commitments. But like you said, it's about doing that thing for you that pushes you out your comfort zone. And it could be a year, or it could be a day.
It could be a daily thing. It could be taking 5 minutes. You've decided now, and you've got to put your foot down. The thing is, you've got to be firm about it, and you've got to follow through with it, because if you don't, you kind of end up going back into that circle that I was talking about earlier, you know, where it's like, oh, okay, I'll do it for like a week, and then, oh, well, yeah, but this happened, and then that happened. No excuses. Put yourself first, because if you don't, and you don't set that boundary and that routine, people then start taking the piss again, and then it stops to exist. And then you end up back in that circle of, oh, I wish I'd done that, and I wish I'd. So if it means taking 5 minutes out of the day to be like, no, this is my time, this is what I want to do. And if that's, you know, spending time on a hobby, or some people might want to get into crochet and you want to do that, that's fine. Go and spend 5 minutes a day crocheting if you can do that. If you can't do it 5 minutes a day, do 5 minutes every other day. It's whatever works for your situation that gets you into that pattern and that routine of putting yourself first every now and then. It's not a problem to turn around and say, I want to have that me spree. I want to be a little bit selfish, because that's then when you start learning about your boundaries and what makes you tick, and attracting everything in that starts to make your life a little bit more enriched and a little bit more fulfilled. And that's the thing. That's the key word we're going for here, people. We're not talking about filling a void. We're talking about people that enrich your life, not fill a void. They enrich. And it doesn't matter whether or not they come or go, because the main point is that you're happy with that little bit of you, that little you person. And until you get to that point, it's always going to go full circle. So, yeah, look after yourself, you know?
So what does the future look like for the Honest Biker?
Fuck knows.
She's just going with the flow.
I'm going with the flow, people. I've got no idea what's going to happen in the future. And to be fair, it is what it is. I am one of them people that it is what it is. And that's the thing as well. Like I have this little motto that everyone kind of thinks is a bit stupid, but it's something that I go by, which is no expectations, no disappointments. You know, do what works for you. Be your own happiness, you know. And if you feel that you're struggling, reach out and talk to people. There's no shame in it. It's absolutely fine. Like, and I'm going to touch on this really lightly when I said about putting my elbow back into its socket. When I was away, I realised because I put myself first, I started to notice things about my body that I'd been told my entire life were all in my head that weren't right. And as soon as I came back, I put myself into a referral and I found out that I've got EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Say that again slowly. What is it?
So it's Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. Yeah, okay. And there's 14 or 15 different variants at the moment. And it's actually really common. But because so many people are gaslit into believing that it's other stuff like IBS but yeah, I decided to do that little thing, put myself first, realize there was something not quite right, go and get a diagnosis. And now I'm, dealing with that. And I'm doing that from a biking perspective. So like I said, it's because I did that thing of putting myself first and learning about myself, what made me tick, how I was as a person mentally and physically. But it was because I took that time out to realize and go, oh, holy shit, actually, do you know what? That probably needs to be checked. But because I'd not managed to take that time out before and listen to myself truly, it just masked everything. And I couldn't see clearly what was really going on, Do what works for you. And when you start doing that, everything else will start it's almost like a mist has been lifted and everything will just start falling into place and making sense. But yeah, I get it. It takes courage. I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I hate doing that, but it does. It takes courage. Take that leap of faith in yourself. Go and have a mean spree, guys. Come on, do it.
I love that. Oh, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Anytime. I love it.
Where can people find out more about you? You are on Instagram. Where else are you?
I'm on Instagram mainly. That's where I am at the moment. Literally all one word, The Honest Biker. I have just started a YouTube, but it's not got much personal stuff on there at the moment. It's mainly biking stuff. I am planning on doing some personal videos if people would like to know about me. Just a little bit of who are you, what makes you tick kind of thing. Who is the honest biker and all of that. Kind of similar to what we've spoken about now, I guess, but as a video, Mm-hmm. And that's it really. I literally go through life taking one day at a time, and I don't put any pressure on myself. So whatever comes, I guess. But yes,
Amazing. Well, I hope that we'll be able to meet up at the Women in Motorcycling
absolutely. Absolutely. I really look forward to it. Please do. Come give me a hug. I'm a hugger. Give me a hug.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm a hugger too, so that's fine.
And if anyone else listening, if you see me, please come over and, come and give me a hug because I love a hug. Or just, manhandle me. It's all good.
Oh, thank you so much, AJ. You take
Absolute
care,
pleasure, mate. All right.
I hope you loved today's episode and it made you think differently, or perhaps nudged you into changing something in your life that's not working for you. I'd love to give you a shout out right here on the podcast too. So let me know what you think, what you'd like to hear more of, or how you've been inspired by what you've heard. Let's keep in touch over on Instagram at Mischief and Hyde, or sign up to my newsletter at zoegreenhalf.com. If you're enjoying being part of the Mischief movement, please consider telling a friend or leaving me a review wherever you download your episodes, which will seriously help my mission to inspire and empower more people like us to choose mischief over mediocre. Ciao!